Heartwarming moments revealed how a maid's incredible bond with his children transformed a mill. In the small town of Maplewood, a crisp wind carried the bittersweet scent of dreams, slipping away while hope hung in the air like an unfinished song. Miguel, a 35-year-old immigrant, stepped into the crumbling Thompson mill with calloused hands and a heart full of ambition. Though the Thompsons regarded him with disdain, the flicker of laughter in their children, Anna and Jake, aged 10 and 8, lit a fire in his heart. Every morning, the sun would filter through the dusty windows, casting a warm glow on the wooden floors, and as Miguel dusted off the remnants of forgotten times, he filled the empty spaces with stories from his childhood. "Did you know that marigolds bring good luck?" he'd ask, a smile blooming on his face. The children listened, wide-eyed, their giggles flowing like sunlight as he taught them to plant seeds in their tiny garden. He would show them how to nurture those fragile sprouts, cultivating hope in both soil and spirit. But beneath the laughter was a fog of worries. The Thompsons, grand in reputation yet crushed by debts, hardly noticed the joy blooming within their home. Miguel felt their scorn as a weight upon his shoulders, yet in those quiet moments with the children he found strength. Together, they painted the walls of the dilapidated house with vibrant colors of life. Stories and tortillas shared over simple meals, traditions crossing borders like friendships forming. Then the town announced a contest. It was more than a chance to win. It was an opportunity to pull the community together and breathe life back into the mill. Miguel's heart raced with excitement. He envisioned a festival that celebrated the rich history of Maplewood, blending it with the vibrant hues of his Mexican culture. But from the moment he shared his idea, dismissive laughs echoed in the halls of the Thompsons' mansion. "A Maid's perspective," they sneered, their privileged tones dripping with condescension. "Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue." But as they locked themselves in their bubble of wealth, Miguel's spirit only burned brighter. At a town meeting filled with restless chatter, he stood up, his voice steady but heart racing. "This community deserves to thrive. We can plant seeds of unity and create something beautiful together." The whispers turned into murmurs of disbelief. Prejudice flooded the room like a tidal wave, questioning whether he, a mere immigrant, had any rightful claim to speak for Maplewood's future. Chaos ensued when the Thompsons' grand vision crumbled, their extravagant plan crashing down like brittle glass. Miguel's heart leaped inside his chest. Maybe, just maybe, this was his moment. Hope hung precariously in the air, and as eyes shifted toward him, he felt the balance tip. Could Miguel transform the hearts of a divided community? Would the Thompsons even realize the power they had overlooked? With his spirit aflame and the weight of the town on his shoulders, he stood ready to turn whispered doubts into collective strength. Miguel took a deep breath, feeling the weight of uncertain glances bearing down on him. He was standing at a crossroads, the future of Maplewood winking at him through gatherings of disillusioned townsfolk. He could sense their skepticism, the quiet judgment simmering under the surface. But that very doubt fueled his determination. The Thompsons' grand vision was no more than a memory, and as whispers filled the air, he summoned all his courage. "Let's revive this town together. Show them the warmth that comes from sharing our culture, a festival that embraces everyone." His voice echoed against the mill's crumbling walls, a stark contrast to their coldness. He remembered the small hands of Anna and Jake, their innocent belief that anything was possible, and his voice grew stronger. A small group began to form, drawn in by the warmth of his passion. "People like you think you can tell us what to do," a voice called out, harsh and unfriendly. Miguel's heart sank for a moment, but then Anna's laughter echoed in his mind. He brought his gaze to meet the eyes of those who dared to listen. "I'm not here to tell you what to do. I want to work together to heal, to grow. Maplewood is in our hearts, no matter where we come from." As he spoke, he noticed a flicker of curiosity. A few heads nodded. Others crossed their arms, still uncertain. But Miguel was undeterred. He pressed on, sharing stories, painting crooked lines of what a celebration could be. Music that danced through the streets. Food that brought everyone together. Stories that knit the tapestry of their community closer. Next to him, Jake bounced excitedly on his toes. "Can we have games and maybe a puppet show?" He chimed in, eyes sparkling with innocent enthusiasm. Miguel chuckled, heart swelling. "Absolutely, and we'll take turns sharing traditions from our cultures." The mention of games and memories began to smooth out the frowns, drawing smiles from the crowd. People began to gather, voices mingling, ideas rising like a crescendo. The landscape of uncertainty began to shift, and Miguel felt hope blooming again as old friendships sparked. "I have a sister who can make tamales," one lady shouted, her face lighting up with memories of home. "And I can help with the music," another contributed, stepping forward. As the meeting stretched late into the evening, Miguel's spirit soared. For the first time, he saw unity sparking among neighbors who had been strangers. They exchanged phone numbers, began forming committees, and even gathered kitchen supplies from their own homes to begin planning. But just as dreams began to take shape, darkness loomed on the horizon. The Thompsons emerged from behind their gilded walls, their expressions cold, as if they were snuffing out the flames of hope rising in their own backyard. "How can you allow this man to dictate the future of Maplewood?" Mr. Thompson thunderingly interrupted, eyes glaring. "We will not stand for this." Miguel's pulse raced as murmurs turned into tensions. A chill swept through the crowd. It was a pivotal moment. Would they stand their ground or crumble under intimidation? As he glanced around the gathering, he saw faces ignited with a newfound sense of ownership. They believed in this dream. They believed in him. Miguel took a step forward, ready to defend not just his vision, but the bond they'd begun to form. How far would they go to protect the seeds of unity they had sown? "Together we are stronger," he called out, determination piercing through the chilly atmosphere. "Together we can rewrite our story." Would the Thompsons succumb to the changing tides, or would they resist a community determined to rise? The answer hung in the air like the milkweed seeds, caught between drifting away and taking root. Miguel felt the air grow thick with unspoken tension, every heartbeat echoing louder than the last. He could see the Thompsons' firm stance. Mr. Thompson's jaw was set, a living wall against his dream. But behind him, the townsfolk's eyes flickered with something new, possibility. "Enough!" a voice shouted from the back. It was Mrs. Hargrove, known for her no-nonsense approach, but with a heart that ran deep. "I've lived in Maplewood longer than most of you. I know what this town can be. Together, we can create something beautiful." Her words sliced through the tension like a knife through butter, drawing gasps and then cheers. Emboldened, Miguel glanced around at the small but growing crowd. The ruts of discontent were morphing into pathways of hope. As voices joined together, a wave of energy swept through him. "We all remember when the mill prospered. We can bring that energy back." A murmur of agreement rolled through the gathering, and Miguel picked up on the rhythm, feeding off the collective hope blossoming around him. "Let's gather ideas. What would you want to see at this festival?" "Parades!" someone shouted, clapping their hands. "And contests," another added with enthusiasm. "Fireworks!" a child squealed, echoing the innocent excitement that was almost contagious. Laughter rippled through the crowd, brightening the otherwise bleak scene. But the Thompsons weren't just going to watch from the sidelines. Mrs. Thompson stepped forward, raising a hand for silence. "You think you can build a festival around this nonsense? Maplewood is meant for the Thompsons. We've built this town, not you." Her voice dripped disdain, but Miguel could see the cracks forming in her armor. "Have you ever asked us what we want, Mrs. Thompson?" one of the older men called out, standing beside Mrs. Hargrove. "This town isn't just yours anymore." A powerful wave of solidarity washed over Miguel. The townsfolk were speaking up, reclaiming their voices. "Maplewood was built on our dreams, our hard work. It belongs to all of us," Miguel affirmed, stepping back into the center. The air crackled with energy, the people catching fire with hope. This was their moment. There was no turning back. As animated discussions ensued about music, food, and games, he noticed families huddling together, eyes shining bright with renewed purpose. Everyone seemed to burn with intertwined dreams, a tapestry of hope woven anew. From the back, Anna tugged at Miguel's sleeve. "Can we have a section for the gardens and maybe a lemonade stand?" Her thoughts chimed in with youthful wonder. "Of course!" "And you can help plan it," Miguel assured her, a smile stretching across his face. Each of their contributions laid brick upon brick, forging a sturdy foundation of togetherness that could withstand anything. Then, a figure emerged from the shadows, Jake's little sister, tiny but fierce. "What if we invite everyone who used to live here back? They could share their stories and we could listen," she suggested boldly. Gasps of admiration reverberated through the crowd. This was more than just a festival. It was a chance for people to reconnect, share their memories, and bind together like threads of a family quilt sewn over generations. But just then the Thompsons stepped forward, their faces pale yet defiant. "You'll regret this," Mr. Thompson warned, his voice cutting through the eagerness. "You think your little dream can threaten our legacy? Just wait and see." Miguel's heart raced. Would they find a way to sabotage the community's vision? Would their passion withstand whatever storm the Thompsons would unleash? "In the struggle for our dreams, we'll find our strength," Miguel thought, knowing they were bound together. This was only the beginning, and their story, one of resilience against the odds, was about to unfold. Would courage bubble into brilliance or crumble under threat? The upcoming days would hold the answer, and Miguel felt the weight of every hopeful heart on his shoulders. Miguel couldn't shake off the chill that Mr. Thompson's words left behind. The crowd was alive with excitement, yet the warning hung in the air like dark storm clouds threatening to burst. He knew the Thompsons were not ones to back down easily, and he felt a knot tighten in his stomach. The chatter gradually died down as people began processing what had just happened. It wasn't just about the festival anymore, it was personal now. Miguel stepped forward. "We can't let fear stop us," he urged, his voice steady despite the turmoil inside. "We owe it to ourselves, to our families, and to each other to fight for what we believe in." The crowd stirred, the spark rekindling hope as they murmured in agreement. It was a small step, but it brought a smile to Miguel's face. They were in this together, their dreams intertwined like branches of a mighty tree. Anna's eyes brightened with determination. "What if we make posters to gather more support? More people need to know about our plans," she exclaimed, bouncing on her heels with excitement. "Yes, we could hang them all around town," Miguel said, energized by her enthusiasm. "If we show everyone how important this festival is for us, they'll join us. They have to." Mrs. Hargrove and a few others nodded, already gathering materials from their bags. Markers, paper, and even glitter flew out, as creativity sparked a sense of unity. Miguel set the tone, orchestrating the energy into something tangible. They laughed and brainstormed, sharing doodles and drawing ideas seamlessly. As he worked, Miguel cast a glance over at the Thompsons. Mr. Thompson stood as immovable as a statue, but Mrs. Thompson's posture was different. She watched, tension in her shoulders, eyes flickering with something more human. Miguel felt a strange stirring in his chest. If the people could unite around a single cause, maybe they could reach her too. Maybe there was a way to change her mind. Time passed in a whir, laughter intermingling with steady resolve. They finished their posters, which were colorful and lively, capturing the essence of what they wanted to see. "Look!" someone shouted as they stepped back to admire their work. "It looks amazing!" Miguel let out a deep breath, absorbing the contagious joy around him. Each poster was a promise, bright colors offering hope and joy where there had once been doubt. He did a quick tally in his mind. How many posters could they put up? People would need to write their names, share their stories. Could they make the newspaper? He caught Anna's eye. "Can you help me talk to Mr. Miller? He might want to cover our plans. Get the word out wider." Her nod was swift, bubbling excitement bouncing off her youthful energy. As they turned to reach the newspaper office, they caught Mrs. Hargrove's gaze. "Mrs. Hargrove, will you come too? Maybe we can get more people involved if we show them what we're doing." "Of course, dear," she replied affirmatively. "I'll help gather the others. Let's make this bigger than any of us imagined." As they hurried to the newspaper office, Miguel could feel the weight lift slightly from his heart. Perhaps, just perhaps, they stood a fighting chance. But as they approached the door, a chilling realization hit him. What if the Thompsons were already planning their strike? What if their words were not just a threat, but a promise of something much darker? He glanced over his shoulder, watching the thick clouds roll in from the horizon, darkening their bright world. The town buzzed with renewed hope, but time and resolve were fragile, and the doubt nagged at him. Miguel was determined, but could he and the townsfolk withstand the storm brewing ahead? The next few days would test not only their resolve, but their unity. Would their festival stand as a beacon of change, or would it crumble under the force of legacy? The answer lingered in the air, just out of reach. As they entered the newspaper office, the warm glow of the lights felt like a welcoming embrace. Mr. Miller, a sturdy man with a friendly smile, looked up from his cluttered desk. He swept away a few scattered papers and greeted them with curiosity. "Hey there, what brings you all in?" His voice had a reassuring timbre. Miguel's heart raced a little. This was it, the moment that could shift everything. "Mr. Miller," Miguel started, gathering his thoughts. "We need your help to spread the word about the festival. It's more than just a celebration for us. It's about standing up for what our town represents. We need the community to rally behind us." Anna chimed in. "We've made posters and we're hoping to gather stories from everyone who wants to support. If your article makes it to the paper, it could really boost our efforts. We want the festival to become a symbol of unity." Mr. Miller nodded, his expression growing earnest. "I've been hearing whispers about tensions brewing around here. This could be a valuable story, one that shows the strength of the community. I'd be happy to help." Relief washed over Miguel, but also a growing sense of urgency. "Thank you, Mr. Miller. We have to act quickly. The Thompson family won't wait long, and they won't sit back and watch us succeed without a fight." With that, they began brainstorming ideas for the article, scribbling bullet points on a notepad. Every idea felt like another brick in the wall they were building against fear. The excitement in the room was palpable, but Miguel could feel an underlying tension snapping at the edges. As they chatted about the festival, Anna leaned closer to him. "What's bothering you, Miguel?" Her voice was soft, almost instinctive, picking up on the knot tightening in his stomach again. "I keep thinking about Mrs. Thompson. I don't want this to become a battle. She looked different when I saw her earlier. Like she wants to fight for her family, but maybe deep down, there's still a spark of maybe wanting to connect." "Maybe you could talk to her," Anna suggested, her eyes lighting up with possibility. "If she can see how much the festival means to everyone, maybe she'll change her mind." Miguel hesitated. Could he really reach her? What would he say? As they wrapped up their meeting with Mr. Miller, a sense of purpose returned. They left the office armed with postcards of hope and a plan to gather more supporters. Outside, the clouds still loomed, dark and unpredictable. The air felt charged, almost electric, as if the storm could erupt any moment. "Let's hang some of these posters right away," Anna exclaimed, breaking into a run toward the town square. Miguel followed, heart pounding, not purely from anxiety, but with renewed energy. As they worked, the sun dipped low, casting a golden hue over the town. With each poster they placed, Miguel felt a sense of pride growing. They weren't just fighting against something, they were fighting for their home, their community, their future. But even in the glow of the moment, a question gnawed at him. Could they really pull this off? Would Mrs. Thompson listen if he reached out? As he stood back to admire their handiwork and the town around him, he sensed the growing weight of the storm, both in the sky and in his heart. The festival was a few days away, but time wasn't the only enemy. Would unity truly overcome the bonds of legacy, or would old grudges drown their flicker of hope? With the wind whispering warnings around them, Miguel felt an undeniable truth. The next step, the next conversation, could change everything. Could he gather the courage to reach out to Mrs. Thompson? And if he did, what would happen next? Miguel stood in the fading light, his mind racing as he watched the last bits of sunlight peek through the clouds. Each flickering shadow felt like a countdown, one he was desperate to ignore. "What if I can't get through to her?" he muttered, clutching a handful of posters like a lifeline. "Hey," Anna said, her voice pulling him out of his spiral. She was putting up the final poster, her focus unwavering. "You won't know unless you try. Besides, you don't have to do it alone." His heart swelled at her encouragement. Anna had a way of making him feel like the impossible was possible. He caught a glimpse of her smile, a reminder that they were in this together. "You're right," he finally said, determination creeping back into his tone. "But I need to time it right, and when she's calm, maybe at the market tomorrow? That might be the easiest place to catch her." "Perfect plan." Anna beamed, her enthusiasm infectious. They walked toward their bikes, laughter bubbling between them, but Miguel couldn't shake the sense of unease. "Let's make sure we have some stories ready for Mr. Miller," Anna said, her voice taking a more serious note. "The more real and heartfelt they are, the better. People connect with emotions." "What if they don't?" Miguel asked quietly, a shadow of doubt creeping back. "What if they push back against us? I don't want them to think we're intruding." "But what if they don't?" Anna countered gently. "What if they embrace it? If Mrs. Thompson sees our passion, she might reconsider." As they mounted their bikes, Miguel felt a charge of hope intertwine with his anxiety. "I'll make sure to include some personal stories from my family. They've lived here for generations. Maybe that'll resonate." "That's it," Anna encouraged, her voice laced with conviction. "We need everyone's voice. Let's meet up early tomorrow. We can canvass the neighborhood and gather more experiences." They pedaled toward home, a relentless wind at their backs pushing them forward. With each rotation of the pedals, Miguel felt lighter, buoyed by the possibility of what lay ahead. The next morning, the sun peeked through the clouds, promising warmth. Miguel's stomach twisted in knots as he and Anna spent hours gathering stories from neighbors who had lived their lives stitched into the town's fabric. A retired teacher reminisced about students who had come and gone. A baker shared tales of kindness during hard times. Each tale was rich with history, spilling over with the love that once thrived in their community. "I can feel it, Miguel," Anna exclaimed after the sixth story. "We're building something that can actually shift minds." As they turned the last corner, Miguel's thoughts drifted again to Mrs. Thompson. If these stories could ignite some compassion in her, maybe it would open a door. What if she still rejects all this? He wondered aloud, the weight of doubt creeping in again. "Then you'll know you tried," Anna replied firmly, her eyes shining with sincerity. "You'll prove to yourself that you're brave enough to reach out. That's what matters." Miguel took a deep breath, letting her words settle in. Just then, a flurry erupted in the market square ahead. Curious, they veered off course and parked their bikes to join the crowd. A few townsfolk pointed excitedly, and Miguel's heart raced. Something big was happening. "What's going on?" he asked a nearby vendor, who looked equally baffled. "It's Mrs. Thompson. She's speaking about the festival." Miguel's pulse quickened. This was another chance. Could this be the moment he'd been waiting for? Gathering his resolve, he exchanged a quick glance with Anna and nodded. As they approached, anxiously pushing through the gathering crowd, a sense of anticipation filled the air. Would Mrs. Thompson extend a hand of reconciliation, or would she reinforce the barriers dividing them? The tension crackled like electricity. Miguel could feel the weight of potential change on the horizon. He was ready to step forward, ready for whatever came next, as the moment hung in the air, hanging by the thinnest of threads. The crowd buzzed with excitement, the hum of conversation swirling around Miguel and Anna as they inched closer to the front. Miguel could see Mrs. Thompson standing on a makeshift stage, her posture confident, but her gaze intense. She was wearing a bright scarf that fluttered slightly in the breeze, drawing attention. Heart racing, Miguel glanced at Anna, whose eyes reflected a mix of anxiety and hope. "Do you think she'll really listen?" Miguel asked, swallowing hard. "Let's just watch," Anna replied, her voice calm, soothing the whirlpool of emotions in Miguel's stomach. Mrs. Thompson cleared her throat, bringing the scattered murmurs to a hush. "Thank you all for coming," she began, her voice commanding, yet warm. "I know this festival means a lot to our community, but I must say, changes are inevitable." She paused, scanning the crowd. Miguel squeezed his eyes shut momentarily, praying for the words he needed to hear. "We can't go back to how things used to be," she continued with a hint of regret, "but we can adapt. We can create a new tradition." A ripple of concern danced through the crowd. Small gasps rose as they struggled to understand her intent. We want to honor the past, but we also want to accommodate the new realities of our town. We need to focus on inclusion and growth. She leaned in, her passion igniting curiosity. What if we made this year's festival a blend of old and new? What if you all helped shape it? Miguel felt a breakthrough ignite in his heart. This was something tangible. Change was in the air, but he couldn't help but feel that the town still needed more than just a compromise. It needed connection. With a deep breath, he stepped forward from the crowd, his voice trembling yet steady. "Mrs. Thompson, with all due respect, what about the voices that have been silenced?" Anna's hand on his back gave him strength. His gaze searched the crowd, seeing the worried faces of neighbors and friends he'd gathered stories from just hours earlier. "I've spoken with a number of residents who carry memories of this festival, the laughter, the tears, the friendships that have built this community. They deserve to be part of this discussion," Miguel exclaimed, adrenaline surging through him. Gasps met his words, and he felt the weight of the crowd's attention, an ocean of eyes fixed on him and, more importantly, on her. Mrs. Thompson looked startled, a flicker of uncertainty crossing her face. I understand where you're coming from," she replied slowly, brow furrowing, "but I can't reshape the festival alone." "No," Miguel said, his voice now rising with fervor. "But the community can. Together, we can share the stories that matter and make them part of this festival. There's so much love here, and it's time we celebrate it." A hush fell over the crowd, an electric moment of possibility hanging in the air. Anna looked at Miguel, pride shining in her eyes, and for a moment he could almost see the connections behind him, the stories they'd gathered, the faces of those who had spoken their truths. Mrs. Thompson's eyes softened, and a tentative smile broke through. "I suppose stories could help guide us. Maybe, just maybe, we can find a way to include them." The crowd erupted in applause, mingled with sighs of relief and whispers of encouragement. As hope surged through Miguel, he felt both terrified and exhilarated. This was the moment he'd been fearing, but also dreaming of, bringing everyone together. Yet amid the applause, doubt crept back in. Would it be enough to sway her completely? Would the others find their voices? "Thank you for bringing this to my attention, Miguel," Mrs. Thompson continued as she met his eyes, a challenge dancing in her gaze. "I'll need you and the others to really step up. Can you do that?" Miguel nodded, resolute. "We'll make it happen." "Good," she replied, her voice steady once more as she turned back toward the crowd. "Let's begin this journey together then." And just like that, hope hung in the atmosphere. Miguel felt a warmth resonating through them all, but with it came whispers of uncertainty. Would they truly bridge the gaps? As the meeting began to wind down, the murmurs of excitement once again filled the square. Miguel felt Anna squeeze his hand as they exchanged smiles, but his heart raced with a new kind of tension. What if they couldn't find common ground after all? Little did he know, the greatest challenge was yet to come, and the journey he'd just embarked on would test him and his community in ways he never anticipated. The sunlight swelled in the sky, casting warm rays over the vibrant square as laughter began to fill the air again. Miguel's heart still pounded as the applause faded. The echo of Mrs. Thompson's words lingered in his mind, fueling both hope and doubt. Anna turned to him, her enthusiasm evident. "You did amazing up there. I can't believe how brave you were." His stomach twisted at the praise. "It felt surreal," he admitted, uncertainty shadowing his excitement. What if it wasn't enough? Being brave isn't always about grand gestures. Sometimes it's just speaking your truth. She paused, taking a deep breath, her gaze unwavering. "And you did that. You opened the door." Miguel glanced over to where Mrs. Thompson was chatting with a few other town leaders, her fingers animated as she spoke. "I hope she understands how much this means to everyone. We can't just change the festival. It should reflect our stories, our struggles. Otherwise, what's the point?" Anna's eyes sparkled. "Exactly. If she doesn't see it, we'll make sure she does. We write those stories together." Just then, a group of familiar faces approached them, their expressions a mix of excitement and nervousness. It was Emily, Miguel's childhood friend, alongside her younger brother Josh and their mother, Ms. Garcia. "Miguel! Anna!" Emily called out, her cheeks flushed with enthusiasm. "Did you hear Mrs. Thompson? She's really thinking about making changes." Miguel nodded, feeling a surge of gratitude at their presence. "We need everyone's voices. All our stories need to be shared." "I know some of the best ones," Josh piped up, his eyes wide. "My soccer team has a lot of stuff to say about why sports should be part of the festival. It's not just about rides and food, right?" A thrill of warmth washed over Miguel at Josh's eagerness. "Exactly. Those are the memories that connect us," he replied, feeling the spirit of collaboration blossom. Ms. Garcia, her brow slightly wrinkled, chimed in. "I think we should have a gathering at the community center. People can share their stories, and we'll document everything. Maybe even start a scrapbook for the festival." "Yes, that's it," Anna said, beaming. "We can invite everyone to contribute." The group quickly began brainstorming, throwing ideas back and forth, transforming uncertainty into action. Miguel felt the energy shift as they fed off one another's enthusiasm. This wasn't just about a festival anymore. It was about reuniting the community and giving everyone a reason to celebrate together. As they chatted, the vibrant colors of the festival decorations danced around them. But beneath the excitement, Miguel's heart was still heavy with the realization that not everyone would be on board with these changes. What about those who felt threatened? Would they push back against the evolution of the festival? As the sun began dipping lower in the sky, Miguel caught sight of an elderly couple standing to the side, their expressions pensive and worried. They had been part of the festival for decades. The thought of stirring up old wounds flickered in Miguel's mind, feeding his doubt. "Let's make sure we include every voice," he said softly, diverting his gaze back to his friends. "We need to reach out to those who may feel left behind, those who hold the history of this festival." Anna nodded, her determination shining through. "We will, Miguel. We can only move forward by grasping those stories too. It's a journey that includes everyone, or it doesn't really work at all." As they firmed up their plans and excitement surged, a quiet resolve settled in Miguel's heart. But he couldn't shake the feeling that with every step ahead, he was walking a tightrope. How could he ensure that the past and future could exist alongside each other without friction? "Are we ready for this?" Miguel whispered, more to himself than to the others. With the festival now looming closer, he understood this was only the beginning. The road ahead would challenge their unity and test the very fabric of their community. And just as he was figuring out where to start, a sudden ruckus broke out nearby, a loud argument rising above the joyful chatter, voices filled with anger. His stomach dropped. What if they couldn't unite after all? Miguel clenched his fists, ready to face whatever storm awaited him. Miguel's heart raced as he turned to the source of the commotion. His friends followed his lead, their faces etched with concern. A small crowd had gathered near the big oak tree, voices clashing fiercely. It was a tense scene. The argument escalated, revealing the older members of the community voicing their objections about the festival changes. "I've attended this festival for over 30 years, an elderly man shouted, anger flashing in his eyes. "You want to change everything just for a few new voices. What about our traditions?" Another voice piped up, this one belonging to a younger woman. "But we need to embrace new traditions too. Why can't we honor both?" Miguel's stomach twisted in knots. He looked into the crowd and noticed Mrs. Thompson standing frozen, her expression caught between concern and exasperation. He knew he had to act quickly. "Let's go over there," Anna urged, her voice quiet but firm. "We can't let them keep fighting like this." The group moved closer, the murmurs of the crowd fading slightly as they approached. Miguel felt the weight of each conversation, a palpable tension hanging in the air. He stepped forward, taking a deep breath to steady his nerves. "Can we all talk, please?" he called out. "I understand there's disagreement, but this is our moment to come together, not to tear each other apart." The crowd's noise dipped, heads turning toward him. Miguel felt the weight of their gazes, searching for something to calm the storm brewing. We all care about this festival. For some of us, it's history and memories. For others, it's a chance to create new ones. What if we work together to find a solution that respects both? There was a brief silence, where even the soft whisper of the wind seemed to hold its breath. Slowly, nods began appearing in the crowd. Mrs. Thompson stepped up, her voice steady. "Miguel's right. We must bring our stories together, not fight over them. There's power in conversation, in listening." As he met the eyes of the elderly man who had shouted earlier, Miguel felt a flicker of connection. "We can carve a space for stories like yours while inviting new experiences. This festival has been a reflection of our community for years. We can keep it alive by adding more chapters." A murmur of agreement rippled through the gathering, but it was tentative, as if the community was slowly grappling with the unfamiliar idea. Miguel felt hope swell within him, but it wasn't enough yet. "I can share my family's traditions," suggested Emily, stepping forward. "And we can carve out moments for each voice, whether it's sports stories, cultural histories, or memories from the past. We can do this together." Josh added with an excited grin, "What if we create a storytelling corner at the festival? Everyone can come and share their tales." The conversation began to shift from confrontation to collaboration, a web of ideas sparking hope amid the uncertainty. The tension that had once filled the air began to dissipate, replaced by the flicker of community spirit battling to rise. But just as Miguel thought they were turning a corner, a voice rose above the rest, still filled with doubt. "And what if it all falls apart? What if our history is lost among your new ideas? How will we ever find our footing?" That question struck Miguel like a thunderclap. Uncertainty washed over him again, and for a moment he felt the old fears creep back. Could they really unite, or was this just a dream he was chasing? Looking into the faces around him, Miguel steeled himself. "It won't be easy," he admitted, "but if we stand together, we can make something beautiful. Let's not fear change, let's guide it." As murmurs of agreement, doubt, and ideas swirled, Miguel's heart echoed with the weight of possibility. They stood on a precipice, ready to leap into a future that could define them all, but still so much hung in the balance, teetering close to the edge. The question loomed in the air, heavy and palpable. Would they choose to step into the unknown together, or would their divisions tear them apart once and for all? Fair's twilight began to envelop Maplewood, casting a serene glow over the square. Miguel felt the weight of the moment pressing upon him. A mixture of anxiety and hope filled the air, while the tensions from earlier still crackled like static electricity. But now, there was a shift. The crowd, once divisive, was drawing together, wrestling with the fabric of their community's history and dreams. "History does not disappear when we share our stories," Miguel declared, his voice rising above the crowd. "It only strengthens. We can infuse the festival with our heritage, our dreams, and yes, our new traditions. Together, we can create a tapestry that tells the story of all of us." The elderly man who had voiced his anger earlier, silenced for so long, looked at Miguel, and for the first time his expression softened. "I've watched this festival become part of my family's memories. I fear what happens when memories fade," he confessed, his voice shaking slightly. "But memories don't fade when we share them," Anna chimed in, stepping by Miguel's side, her eyes shining with sincerity. "They live on, echoed through generations. Let's create a space for everyone, so we can preserve the past while embracing change." Miguel felt the energy shift. He locked eyes with Mrs. Thompson, who nodded, her determination sharp. "We can incorporate segments. Old traditions can have a place alongside new ideas," she echoed with a newfound determination. After all, every great legacy looks to the horizon, while anchoring itself in the richness of the past. A hesitant murmur of agreement coursed through the crowd, the tension binding them loosening as compassion began to weave its way through fear. Miguel pressed further, buoyed by a spectrum of hopes and newfound connections forming around him. "Let's hold a community meeting at the library," Miguel suggested. "Everyone can bring their ideas and stories. We can organize workshops leading up to the festival. Not only will we gather memories, but we'll also build relationships. Think of the energy we could create together." One by one, people began chattering amongst themselves, the power of unity rippling through them. A voice shouted from the back, "I could help set up the library and facilitate some of the discussions." Someone else volunteered to create promotional materials. Soon hands were raised, Ideas were flying and hope began to swell. Miguel felt a warmth radiate from his heart, echoed by Anna and the crowd, an irreplaceable bond forged in vulnerability and courage. This was real. They were stepping forward together, choosing connection over division. Then, just as he felt the momentum building, the elderly man spoke again. "I don't want to lose what we've built, but telling our stories, involving new voices, maybe this is the change we need. Maybe I can share my family's recipes for the festival." Joy erupted in the square. Cheers blended with laughter, sending ripples through the crowd. The negativity faded in the glow of possibility. As families began clustering together, excitement bubbling as they shared ideas, lightness filled the air, dissolving the heaviness that had lingered just moments before. Miguel glanced at Anna, whose smile illuminated the ground beneath them. They were doing this. They were weaving connections, blurring lines that once separated them. As people began heading towards the community center for the meeting Miguel proposed, he took a deep breath, realizing the true magic of the moment. They were embarking on a journey, one that interlaced their past with their future. It would require work, patience, and an unwavering determination to keep channels open. In the days leading to the festival, Miguel found himself pulled into conversations that shaped not only the festival, but also the very core of Maplewood. He heard stories of resilience from generations past, each one adding color to the vibrant tapestry they were collectively creating. The community met to share stories, laughter, and ideas, building bridges, constructing an event that felt alive, pulsing with their collective heartbeat. When the festival day finally arrived, the town square transformed into an oasis of vibrant sights and sounds. Colorful banners danced between the trees, laughter echoed far and wide, and the aromas of diverse foods filled the air. Each booth radiated warmth, reflecting the stories and traditions of those who gathered around. Miguel stood at the forefront, watching families spin tales, young voices sharing their dreams and elders recounting histories of yesteryear. He felt Anna squeeze his hand, a reminder of the little seeds they'd sown together. And then he spotted Mrs. Thompson across the square, her demeanor relaxed as she engaged with residents, laughter spilling from her lips. A smile tugged at Miguel's heart. The rift had not only healed, but had flourished into something beautiful, a community united. In that moment, he couldn't help but realize that true transformation echoes through connection. With every story shared, they had watered the roots of their town, and the blossoms that emerged were brighter than any of them could have hoped. They were one community, celebrating not just their differences, but the threads that bound them together. As the sun dipped below the horizon, colors spilling across the sky, Miguel reveled in a singular thought. This was only the beginning. Change had not just arrived, it had taken root, and together they would nurture it. Now, dear friends, don't just witness these moments. This is the moment to show your support. You need to subscribe immediately to the channel so you won't miss the next exclusive stories that inspire. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and help others discover these heartwarming journeys. Comment below your reactions and feelings about this amazing transformation, and share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. Don't wait not even one more second to express the magic of unity. Your voice matters.